Welcome, everybody, to our webinar about the new EU Detergent Regulation and what it means for microbial cleaning. My name is Rahel Kegi-Romero. I am Corporate and Product Marketing Director at HeiQ, and I will be guiding you through this webinar today. We'll have 30 minutes of presentations, followed by 15 minutes of Q&A. You can already ask questions as they occur to you during the presentations by using the Q&A button, and we'll get to answering them at the end after the presentations. Now, let me introduce our speakers today. First up, we have Dr. Robin Temmerman.
Hello.
Hello. Robin is the head of Business Unit Life Sciences at HeiQ and the CEO of HeiQ Chrisal in Belgium. He did his PhD in microbiology, specifically probiotics, and as such, he's well placed to answer questions about the microbial world and its benefits during the Q&A part of the webinar. Now, our guest speaker today is Dr. Didier Jans. Didier is the owner of SERRPA, a regulatory and public affairs consultancy. A PhD biologist, he brings long experience in Brussels policy and regulation across food and feed, raw materials, environment, chemistry, and worker protection. He also manages AMAEE, a network of companies working with microorganisms. And he's known for bridging industry, academia, regulators, and policymakers.
Good morning, everybody.
Thank you very much. Now I will hand over to our first speaker.
Okay, from my side, also a good morning, but also good afternoon, good evening. We have several hundreds of registrants for this webinar from many parts of the world. So I think that proves for sure that the topic of probiotic cleaning, microbiological cleaning products is a very hot topic, and certainly the regulatory part of it, which is for many, many years already a big journey in many parts of the world. And I think Europe is now taking the lead in coming with specific regulations, which is for the industry, of course, a very welcome gift that we now have clarity. And this webinar is dedicated to this specific topic of regulation around microbial-based cleaning products. I'm very happy that we have Didier with us as an expert. He will dive more in detail into the actual new upcoming detergent regulation and specifically the criteria and details there are in regarding the microbiological cleaning products. We assume that nearly everybody who is attending this webinar is familiar with the topic, with the technology, so we will not go in any details on what is it, a microbial-based cleaning product, probiotic cleaning. We have had several webinars before, and we will have more in the future. Now, anyhow, on the company, so HeiQ Chrisal is active in probiotic cleaning for almost 30 years now. It's joined the HeiQ group in 2021. Is located in Belgium with development and manufacturing of mostly microbial-based cleaning products. To be very clear, so although in industry the term probiotic cleaning, probiotic detergent is very commonly used, more officially we talk about microbial-based cleaning products. And these are cleaning products, detergents, so they are used for cleaning purposes, that contain live microorganisms. I think that's very important. It has to contain live microorganisms. You will see later on when Didier goes more in detail in the criteria. We need live microorganisms. No enzymes, no postbiotics. They can also be there, but at least it has to contain live microorganisms to classify as a microbial-based cleaning product. As I said, often referred to as probiotic cleaning products. And the only thing they do, it's very simple. The mechanism is very simple. It's actually a further evolution development of enzymatic cleaning products. The microorganisms, after cleaning, they stay on the surface and they will start producing all kinds of enzymes depending on the type of organic pollution on the surface. And these enzymes will then digest the organic pollution like grease, fat, proteins, whatever contamination you have. The enzymes will break it down. So the end effect, the added value is that you have a continuous cleaning effect on top of the chemicals that are most likely still in the product. So you have a long-lasting cleaning effect that results in a microscopic deep cleaning, and also, for instance, extra benefits like odor prevention and control. They're also very safe and certainly sustainable to work with, because they mostly fit into more green, sustainable chemistry. And I think that's an evolution that we see happening now, both in industrial and in the consumer market. Regarding the regulation, so far for the technology, so back to regulation. As a company, we started by launching the first probiotic cleaning products already back in 2003. Now, of course, in that time, there was nothing. There was no regulation. There was hardly any scientific validation by means of published papers. So it was very revolutionary. And of course, we had a lot of opposition from customers, from the academics, from regulators. So it was in the meantime, 22 years, a long way to satisfy all these requests. So we did a lot of research. We have been working in a lot of working groups on criteria to put into regulations. And we're very happy to see that now, today, this finally pays off, and we see major steps being taken on the regulatory level. So actually, the first step was back in 2012, where we had a couple of companies active with microbial-based cleaning products at that time that joined the working group that contained people working with OECD, with Ecolabel, with the EPA and Health Canada. And they came with the first draft for guidelines. Of course, it mentioned that there still was a need for a lot of research, but at least the first definitions and criteria were already defined there. The years after, a lot of research has been done by our company, by other companies, by academic institutes. So we started to see the first scientific papers on the use of microbial-based cleaning products, for instance, in healthcare or other areas, appear with good results and the benefits that this technology brings. Then an important step again was in 2016 when the European Ecolabel for the first time adopted microbial-based cleaning products in their criteria for institutional cleaning products. And it was also this first set of criteria that actually still today is the fundament, the basis of the criteria that we will see appearing in the EU Detergent Regulation. After 2016, a lot of research has been done, a lot in healthcare, because of course, many of the remarks or questions were regarding the safety of using microorganisms in all kinds of places, certainly for instance, in hospitals. So a lot of scientific studies were performed where HeiQ Chrisal has done, I think, a big job in contributing there. And eventually, in 2022, based on research done by the Charité University Hospital in Berlin, the Robert Koch Institute also came in its new hospital infection control guidelines with some first observations on the use of microbial-based cleaning products for that purpose, and proposed it as a very valuable alternative to disinfectants for some areas in a hospital. A lot of these studies, a lot of these recommendations, like the ones from Robert Koch Institute, helped, of course, to convince also the EU Commission to look into this microbial-based cleaning product technology and adopt it also in the new detergent regulation that they have been working on for the past years. So then We expect somewhere next year that the new detergent regulation will be final. But for that, we have, of course, Didier with us, who knows all the details and will gladly explain you what the actual status of this detergent regulation is and what we can expect in the next years and the implications for microbial-based cleaning products specifically. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. I didn't know if I wanted to intervene. So first, thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar. I think it's a very important topic, and I'm very pleased to be with you this morning. I try to bring you into this new development. I make a short introduction to, well, basically who I'm representing and who has been working on that, so AMAEE. What's new with this regulation? I then try to bring you through the general and the specific requirement relating to microorganism in this new regulation, and maybe then wrap up with the implication and the next step that we anticipate. So AMAEE, it's a cooperation between companies that has started since 2020. So more or less, it's an association. Formally, it's not, but practically, we work like an association. And this initiative was driven by a need that was identified by these companies and others that are around them, basically about the absence of a dedicated legislative framework for the use of microbial product in a range of applications. So obviously we have a regulation in place for feed use, for biocide, for veterinary use, but for many other applications that are developing and fitting to a very innovative approach, there is nothing in the regulation. That might be nice to a certain extent, but sometimes it's also a limit to business development because of the uncertainties that relate to this kind of a regulatory vacuum. So the idea of this group was to try to work in order to ensure a proper, safe, and transparent marketing and use. Well, we focus on European Union on this microbial product, adopting both regulatory and non-regulatory paths. We don't necessarily look for regulation on everything, but we want to be transparent and safe with the product. And so the overall idea is to generate a predictable and proportionate context for product development, to know where we go, what we need to do, and to avoid, well, inappropriate or whatever situation for this product. Clearly, there is today, with all the green discussion and sustainability discussion, a very positive context for us to unlock this amazing potential of microorganisms in many types of applications. Personally, as you understand, I'm running a consultancy business dealing with regulatory and public affairs, and I'm coordinating this AMAEE organization since the beginning. So I'm providing practically a Secretariat General to this organization. When we look at the application, and it's not exhaustive, but the main one we have in focus for the time being is the management of slurry of our manure with microorganisms, the maintenance of quality of bedding in animal production and environment, the maintenance of water quality in aquaculture system and ornamental ponds, also the installation of positive biofilm in husbandry building or on animal, and last but not least, the detergent application. There, obviously, we are not limiting ourselves to animal context, but to detergent used on a wider perspective. If I can have the next slide. Thank you. So what's new? Well, as you understood, the existing regulation on detergent, that was the regulation 648/2004, was not covering sensu stricto the microorganism-based detergent. So a regulatory path was cleverly developed on that, and Robin mentioned it, through the recognition of hard surface cleaning detergent via the eco-label schemes. But still, the regulatory situation was not tight, because the eco-label was recognizing this type of product, but the roots regulation on which the eco-label depends, so basically the detergent regulation, did not really include microorganism in its scope. So we, as AMAEE, but also other partners in industry, had quite an extensive work with the European authorities, the European Commission in particular, for them to recognize that there is an important area of innovation that was falling out of their regulatory framework, and that there was a need to include the detergent in order to support this innovation and to support the development of this sustainable cleaning procedure and approach. And as you understand, we have been very successful on that, and we have managed to convince the different European institutions to do that at the opportunity of the revision of this regulation that they started a couple of years ago. So it's the very first time that the EU regulation explicitly covers the microorganism-based detergent in their scope. They are guided, and the background idea is to ensure the safe use of this range of product, but also while supporting innovation and supporting the sustainable approach of this new type of cleaning solutions. So the regulation was extending its scope compared to its previous version, and was including several definitions that are relevant to the microbial-based product. They also revised a little bit the definition of cleaning, very interestingly for the type of activities that microorganisms are providing, and they also refer to the definition. We have also, and that's part of the content of this new regulation, they've included clear rules on the safety, labeling, and risk assessment of the product. One has to bear in mind, if you don't know, that the detergent regulation, the existing one and this new one, as far as the safety of the chemical is concerned, is very much relying on the chemical regulation, so REACH, CLP, and this kind of things. And it happens that the microorganisms are actually out of the scope of this chemical legislation. So there was a need for introducing some kind of framework for the risk assessment methodology for the microorganism under this scope, since it was not possible to rely on the general chemical framework. What I'm telling you today and what I'm reporting is based on the final compromise text of this detergent regulation. So I don't go into the detail of the decision-making at European level, but you might know it's something which is decided between the European Commission, the European Parliament, and the European Council, which is representing the member states. So all this has been decided. They have agreed on the content. The formal adoption process is still not completely finished, so I'm reporting you the content and what's going to happen on the basis of this, final draft decided document. But so it's important for you to know, if you go on internet, you will not find the new regulation yet. You will find this final text if you like. When we look at the requirements, and before I go to the specific one that are relevant to the microorganism, I would like to draw your attention that there are also quite a number of requirements that are general for all the detergent, including the microbial-based detergent. So yes, pay attention to the specific requirements I'm going to browse in the next slide, but also pay attention not to overlook to the comprehensive set of requirements that is common to all the detergent. Amongst them, and it's not exhaustive, but that's the main aspect that you have to carry out for any detergent. There is a need for doing a so-called conformity assessment. So basically, it's a self-assessment by the manufacturer about the safety and the functionality, the biodegradability, and so on and so forth of any detergent that goes on the market. The result of that is that the manufacturer needs to establish a technical documentation, which is practically a quite comprehensive dossier on all the characteristics and confirmation that the product fulfills all the requirements of the regulation. A new requirement is also to establish a digital product passport and to register the detergent in online registries that are going to be provided with the regulation. Pay attention as well to the labeling rules. I will touch to some specific aspects, but they are wider about distinction between physical label. There is new digital label options now with the regulation that, of course, all applies to the microbial-based detergent as well. Need to provide correct use information that applies to all detergent. There are also quite a number of rules in this regulation about the formulation, the packaging, the repackaging rules, and also that's pretty new, the refill rules. So all what applies to the possibility to refill containers rather than to buy a ready-made and closed one. There is also an important aspect about ingredient transparency and the requirements to notify this formulation to poison center. So that's part of the chemical legislation, but that applies definitely to the detergent. And all the things that relate to the market surveillance, manufacturer, distributor responsibility, traceability, and so on and so forth. So that's just a snapshot, but please, I wanted to insist on the fact that what I'm going to tell you about the requirements for the microbial detergent is just a kind of add-on to all the requirements that are generally applying to all the detergent going on the European market. When we look at the specific requirement for the microorganism in this regulation, and you see on the box on the right, I've somehow extracted for your ease the articles that are mostly relevant to the microorganism. Is the Article 2 on the definition, the Article 5 that says what the detergent containing microorganism needs to do. It's a very short one, you can see, but basically that's the core of the regulation. There is an article on animal testing which is forbidden, so we need to bear that in mind. There is an article on the delegated power. I go back to that. That's what the Commission needs to do now that the regulation is adopted. An article on report and review. Obviously, the authorities will have to assess how it works, if the regulation is doing well, if it needs to be tightened or whatever, and they will need to do that in a few years. There is also an article on the transitional provision, so that applies to existing products. And very importantly, there is this Annex 2 that details the requirements for the detergent containing microorganisms. So which are the criteria they need to fulfill in order to be recognized and to be accepted on the European market. And also the Annex 5 on labeling requirements. That's a very general one, but it also includes some specificities for the microorganism. So when we look at this Annex 2, which basically spelled out what needs to be done to be able to place such a product on the market, the first requirements is the identification of the microorganism. So the regulation is very clear on the fact that precise information is required. This information, the identification needs to go down to the strain level, so genus, species, and strain. There is an obligation to deposit the microorganism in international recognized culture collection, and the identification, and well, we anticipate the safety, needs to be based on whole genome sequencing. So you understand we need to have a very precise and clear understanding of the identity of this microorganism. Well, obviously, we don't want to release pathogenic microorganisms. I don't think anybody would have that in mind, but the regulation also has specifically provided that 7 microorganism species are excluded. But, well, obviously, you want to use them. It's Escherichia coli, Streptococcus, Staphylococcus, Bacillus, Salmonella, and so on. So kind of things, obviously, we don't use in industrial production, and certainly not in deliberate release condition like this one. This microorganism also cannot be genetically modified organisms. So here the regulation refers to the general GMO regulation. They need to be genuine microorganisms. They cannot be genetically modified. And they also cannot contribute and bring to the antimicrobial resistance, which, as you appreciate, is quite a serious issue for human health. So these microorganisms that we are going to use in the microbial detergents need to be susceptible to the major antibiotic classes. Well, they are processed and so on to confirm and to test that, obviously. But so antimicrobial resistance needs to be excluded and avoided. We have also requirements about the concentration and the shelf life. So the regulation provides that the microbial detergent needs to have a minimum concentration. It's set at 1 × 10⁵ colony forming units per milligram or gram. So it's the usual concentration unit for microbiological context. And this product must guarantee a shelf life of minimum 18 months with a plate count, so basically a concentration which is guaranteed at the end of the shelf life. Next one. No, yeah. Next. Thank you. Very importantly, That's the safety requirement. So the microorganism must be safe to human health and the environment. There we still have a little bit of an open situation. Actually, the regulation at this stage provides that a risk assessment methodology will have to be developed by the European Commission. And that when I mentioned a bit earlier the delegated power by the Commission, that's what I was referring to. So basically, the Commission has got the mission to develop this methodology for the risk assessment within a defined time frame. So it means at this stage, we don't have yet prescriptive indication from the authorities on what are the safety requirements that needs to be fulfilled. It doesn't mean we don't know anything at all about that, because as Robin said, we have already the background of the eco label that somehow contains some of this aspect. And obviously we have started thinking about that and working on that. So I'll come back to this in a minute. When you put such a type of detergent on the market, you have also to substantiate the functionality of your product, so the claims you are going to do, and this has to be done by testing, so-called appropriate test according to the regulation. So it needs to be serious and credible, but the regulation is relatively not prescriptive on the way you need to do that. It has to be convincing and done in a proper way. You can also, according to this requirement, not claim an antimicrobial or disinfectant effect. That's completely prohibited, of course, unless your product or your microorganism has been authorized under the biocide product regulation, the 528. I would like to insist very, very much on this aspect. You might know that the borderline between the detergent and the biocide regulation is quite narrow, and that has been a subject of a lot of discussion over the last years. We are processing and stepping forward in having a real frame in the detergent context. We must be extremely careful not to worry and to make control authorities uncomfortable about this type of effect. So, and we can discuss, and I'm sure people will look at this carefully in the placing on the market of their product. All the tests and these requirements that needs to be fulfilled must be done by laboratories, well, generally external laboratories that needs to work according to certain quality standards. So these laboratories must be working under good laboratory practice or equivalent condition, or being accredited for the type of tests that they are doing. Not in the Annex 2, but I told you that the Annex 5 was putting some specific labeling requirements. So we have an obligation for this product to declare on the product label that they contain microorganism. Also, there is an obligation to indicate that they should not be used on food contact surfaces unless they've been safety cleared. So it's a kind of strange formulation. Basically, only the one that have been cleared for that purpose can be used in food contact. We need also to declare the shelf life on the product, and when it's relevant, how to use, and the precautionary instruction that might apply for this product. So what's the implication and what's the next step practically? Here you have the kind of estimated calendar of this regulation. So as you understand, we are in the final run of the decision making. So the European Parliament committee in charge of the topic has approved already this final compromise. The plenary of the Parliament is expected to vote on it in the course of December. So we anticipate that the regulation should be published in the official journal somewhere by the beginning of 2026. It will be legally existing, so that's the so-called entry into force in the European regulatory jargon, 20 days after its publication. So small uncertainty there, but basically somewhere between, I would say, January and March, normally the regulation should be in the official journal. When we look at this risk assessment methodology, the regulation provides that the Commission needs to deliver and to publish that within 30 months after the entry into force. So if we start from the 26th publication, it means in the course of the summer 28, we should have this methodology on the risk assessment available. This methodology is anticipated to cover the microorganisms themselves, but also how to check the product safety, so the safety of the product itself. For instance, regarding sensitization aspect when the product is used in spray format and these kind of things, and how also to certify it and to document that the product is safe for food contact surface. So a complete and comprehensive way to safety assess the product and to document that the product that we place on the market is safe. And then the full implementation of the regulation will occur 42 months after the entry into force. So if we remember, we start in early 26, 42 months means that by the summer 29, all detergent going on the market, and so obviously all detergent based on microorganism will have to apply fully this new regulation. In between, I mentioned that the regulation contains transition measure. So it provides how to manage the product that were lawfully on the market under the existing regulation. There is this all kind of transition situation and provisions. Next one, please. So when we look at the implication and the next step, I think the first one is a big opportunity. So clearly now the path is open. We have the possibility to go and to develop this innovation beyond the hard surface cleaning that was opened by the eco label. That's a very good news. So we are not limited to hard surface. It's going to be all kind of detergent, and we have a framework for that. So I think that's a very, very good news for business and innovation. Obviously, the assessment methodology for the microorganism, so the safety assessment I mentioned, will be pivotal in that. So we wait for that. And when I say we wait, we do more than waiting, of course. We are working on that. We anticipate on that level that the European Commission will very probably rely on the input and ideas of the GRC, so the Joint Research Center, which is the scientific arm of the European Commission, which is working on that. In fact, the GRC is in charge of the eco-label regulation. There is a revision which is ongoing, and through this ongoing revision, they are thinking about what are the risk assessment criteria that should be included, how to risk assess the safety of this kind of product. So it's a kind of a parallel work between the scientific arm, with whom we are in contact, of course, and what the Commission needs to produce and to release as a regulatory basis for the risk assessment. We expect that the GRC will, in part, not completely, because it doesn't cover all what needs to be covered, but will in part rely on the risk assessment, on the risk assessment methodology, which is developed by EFSA for the microorganism in general. We are very much on that. So we have an ongoing work in AMAEE, which is looking at the safety. So we have started that, and obviously that's the next step for us, is to look at how we look at this safety assessment and to try to have something which is indeed proportionate and feasible. I insist on the need to act with caution. So clearly a door is open. Some people are a little bit uncertain and they like to see where we go. So it's a kind of important period where we need to act with caution on what we do, how we place the product on the market, and what kind of claims are made on that. We need to build trust, and that's a big opportunity to do that. So we are on it. AMAEE has been working. AMAEE is open. So if any of you wants to contribute to that, you're of course very welcome. And I hope that through this, I give you a kind of basic information on what's going on and what's happening with this detergent regulation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Didier, for this nice explanation. I think it's really important, of course, like the safety assessment that will also be a very important aspect of this new detergent regulation. But as you said, a lot of work has already been done. And we have seen already also in scientific papers a a lot of work being published on the safety requirements for strains. I think until now, people have mostly been focusing on strains, probiotic strains that originate from the food industry as a starting point for safety. But of course, we know that industry is looking in much more opportunities, other strains that show other characteristics that may solve very specific problems like pollutions that we might have in specific occasions. So indeed, certainly when we go look for more exotic strains, then of course we need a good standard for safety assessment. And I think indeed to conclude, we have had the eco label doing a really nice job, pioneering job on these probiotic cleaning products for hard surface cleaning and institutional. As you say, now when the detergent regulation comes in effect, it will be much broader. For instance, laundry detergents, dishwashing, whatever, anything that falls under the scope of detergents will also be able to include microorganisms. So that's a major step forward. And I think, yeah, Chrisal has been pioneering for more than 20 years. We have 27 years in the meantime since we started working on this technology. So it has been a very long way, but we're very happy with where we are now. And in a couple of years, when the safety assessment is there, I think by that time, probiotic cleaning or microbial-based cleaning will become mainstream. And then the big advantage is that we will have a good set of criteria that will prevent bad quality products entering the market, because as with any new technology, we have to build trust in the technology. And for that, we need good products on the market by good companies and by good authorities and regulations that make sure that everything goes well. So I thank you again, Didier, for your contribution. And I think, Rahel, the few minutes left, we can do a couple of questions, but we have hundreds of people attending. So most likely we will not be able to deal with all of them, but then we can do it by email afterwards.
Yes, at this point, just remind you, you can ask your questions by using the Q&A button. And as Robin said, there are a lot of people, so I expect we will not be able to answer all the questions. So if you want your question answered definitely, then please don't ask anonymously, because then we don't know who asked and we cannot answer by email. Okay, let me get right to the questions. Good morning. Will prebiotics and probiotics be allowed with biocidal claims?
Well, I think, yeah, that's for sure not the case. So whether the detergent, so the cleaning products, whatever ingredient that they have, whether it's a chemical or an enzyme or a prebiotic sugar or probiotics, microorganisms, when your product is supposed to be a detergent, a cleaning product, the claims also have to fit within that purpose. If you want to make biocidal claims, then you have to register with the BPR, just like with any product that you want to have as a biocide. So the fact that there are microorganisms in the detergent does not make a difference on the level of claims that you can make.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question. What about application of this kind of approach in cooling towers? Can the same regulatory development be expected? So cleaning for cooling towers.
Yeah, well, if you have a product based on microorganisms, eventually maybe also with chemicals, enzymes, whatever, that serves the purpose to clean cooling tower pipes, pumps, filters, heat exchangers, whatever. If the purpose is to actually clean out the system, it falls under the scope of the detergent regulation, and the criteria also apply for these products and applications.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question. Good morning. Can probiotics also provide an additional function of antifungal activity due to their ability to absorb moisture?
Well, that's of course a biocidal application. So that's not the purpose of a cleaning product. Microbial-based cleaning products, you need to make sure that the surface is clean, that you remove any organic pollution that you may have. And of course, the better the hygiene, the better also the microbiology that you might have. If you really need an antifungal product, There will be certain strains that will be able to do that, but that of course requires specific research to demonstrate and also then a specific registration under the BPR.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question, how can we reassure customers in acute care hospital environment that probiotics are safe to use?
Yeah, well, that's why we have been focusing a lot on application in healthcare. When we started more than 20 years ago, actually in 2003, the first application and study that we performed with these probiotic cleaning products was in hospitals, specifically to demonstrate the safety of use. In the meantime, we have over 10 scientific papers, which are independently performed by all kinds of hospitals and universities, clearly demonstrating the safe use. But that will be, I think, also an important part of this safety assessment that has to be developed by the European Commission. That also perhaps certain strains should not be allowed in certain areas. We can think about certain strains that might cause problems in food production areas, in food industry. Others may be not suitable for healthcare. So that perhaps the more wider we go in the type of strains, the more specific we might need to go in the limitations of where they can be used. But the things that are currently on the market, these strains that we use in the products today, all have been very thoroughly analyzed and researched specifically for applications in hospitals.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question, I think, goes to Didier. Distributing products to the market currently, are we insured in the period between now and the application of this regulation? Meaning, what happens if you are dealing products now?
Well, that's where I say we need to be a bit careful about that, because as you understand, we were not under the scope before. We are now under the scope. The full application will only be in 29. And so in between, I think that there is a very positive feeling about the fact that the product can go on the market. We don't know yet the full safety assessment, but we begin to know it. So I think that there is a need to act with control to some extent about what we do. It doesn't mean we cannot go. I mean, the opening is clearly there. I would suggest you get close to your microorganism supplier to do it right and to develop the product in the right way.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that's maybe also for Didier. Hello, very interesting webinar. Congratulations. Thank you. Will it be possible to name the detergents, including microorganisms, as probiotic detergents according to the new detergent regulation?
I don't think it's excluded. Honestly, probiotic in general is more related to use in food context. So the most used term nowadays would be microbial-based detergent, but I don't think there is any prevention or legal prevention about the fact to use probiotics. Now to be seen whether it's the right way from a marketing point of view, but I don't think there is any legal limitation on that.
No,
Okay.
I think indeed, Didier, there is no limitation. It's mostly a marketing aspect. Of course, I think it would be a bit pity if reference would be made to probiotic if strains are being used that are not also used as a real probiotic in food industry. And so if certain bacterial strains will be used that do not originate from food industry, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to refer to probiotic. But in the regulation, there is absolutely no limitation on using this term. No.
Okay, thank you very much. And there was a question, can you share the presentation? Yes, I can. Please write me an email after this and we'll send out the presentation. Also, we have reached the end of our time. There are still more questions. We will answer the questions by email afterwards, so your questions will be answered. And if you have additional questions not yet asked, please write us an email as well. We can totally answer your questions then. Also, as a notice, this webinar is recorded. All of you, everybody, even those who are not in the audience at the moment, everybody who signed up will receive a recording link so you can watch it again with yourself or with your colleagues. Thank you very much for attending, speakers. Thank you very much for this informative session. As Robin mentioned, we always do webinars about various topics. I look forward to seeing all of you again later on in another webinar as well. So thanks very much, everybody, and see you next time.
Thank you, Al. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.